Welcome back, fine folks. This next adventure takes us right out here to Garland, Texas, to a place called Mills Cemetery. We're going to tell this little story here about a local legend. There's a certain grave in this cemetery that we're going to check out. And I'll give you the story behind it. It's a great day to come out here to a cemetery. It's overcast, it's dreary, it's cold. Perfect cemetery weather. 3, 2, 1. Now, Mills Cemetery is a historic Texas cemetery designated from the Texas Historical Commission. Here's the lowdown of it right here. Feel free to pause it if you like to read this little plaque, gives you the lowdown. Now, before we get into the main event of why we're here, Smiley's grave, you're going to see this right here. There's the Mills Cemetery entrance. You see the word cemetery's gone, but the cemetery was established by Edward C. Mills. He's one of the earliest settlers in what is now the Garland area. And the funny thing is, right next to this cemetery is the Garland Cemetery. Now there's the Mills Cemetery gateway I was just showing you, but like I said, right next to it is the Garland Cemetery entrance. This was established in 1925, and again, it's just all one cemetery. I mean, there's no separation between the two. But we're going to go inside, point out a few markers. Again, if you ever come out here, see that sign right there, do not vandalize anything. And also, right below the Garland Cemetery gateway, it says Heroes Rest Here. R.I.P. Well, as we head inside here, that sign we just saw said Heroes Rest Here. Well, there's some Civil War veterans that are buried here, which is why the sign's out front. But Edward C. Mills, he had a wife, Elizabeth Collins Mills. Well, she died in 1854. She was the first burial here in this family cemetery. Well, at first the cemetery was only for the Mills family, but soon neighbors were allowed to be buried here. And Mills Cemetery, in effect, became a neighborhood burial ground. Now, Edward Mills has two sons, James and John. They're also buried here, and they're also Civil War veterans. Another one of his sons his name's Robert, also buried here. A fourth son, his name's Hope. Well, he died at the Battle of Vicksburg. But before we get to the main event, we're going to see if we can find the Mills gravestones. I mean, the graveyard's not very big. The Smiley's grave's in here somewhere too, so we're going to find that in a little bit. That's what they call a tease. I seem to have located the Mills section right here. There's a Lois Mills and a Joe D. Now it says Rainey up there. Now I don't have any idea who they are. I'm sure they have to be some kind of relation. I mean, the Mills name, but I mean, sheesh, this is going to 2015 for Joe D. and Lois 1937. Look at that. Little ball cap says Best Dad. And here he is right here. Edward Mills, born December 25th, 1805, died June 22nd, 1871. And there's a whole section you can see right behind this headstone here with a ton of Mills relatives. And some of these, a lot of them, I should say, I have no idea who they are. But There's Edward right there. Well, look at this right here. Right around the side from Edward, Elizabeth Mills, born July 6, 1820. She passed October 15th, 1834. And as I said earlier, Elizabeth was the first burial right here in this family cemetery. As I stroll through these cemetery grounds, I'm the only one out here, by the way. There is not a soul in sight besides a few cars. Out that way is a busy road. Probably hear them in the background. But other than that, I'm the only fool out here walking around. Kind of reminds me of seeing some of these old headstones out here. Reminds me of the 1985 zombie classic, Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, just a little bit. Right over here is another section of Mills Cemetery. Yeah, I got sidetracked a little bit because this caught my eye. These tombstones have a little festive theme going. It's for Jim Anderson, beloved father and granddad. Right behind Jim, James Allen Anderson, died in 1966. I'm just going to assume they were just big fans of Christmas. That's why we have a snowman and Santa Claus out here. Well, look at this. Right across the way, another one that caught my eye. We have a little Christmas wreath for John and Faye. John died in 1988. Faye in 2005. I'm going to say if I was ever buried, which I don't want to be, I want to be cremated, but if I were buried, I think I'd like my tombstone to have Wi-Fi. Way, you know, people can post pictures with my stone. Now, for those of you, mainly for those of you that live in the area out here around Garland, Texas, if you're not familiar with Smiley's grave, it's a mass grave, so there's more than one person buried in there. One marker, several people in the grave of the Smiley family. But as the legend goes, back in 1925, Mr. Smiley was considered a mean individual. And what he did, ended up going crazy one night, murdering his entire family. That's how the legend goes. And I finally found the Smiley grave after searching in an area completely irrelevant. I didn't think about going across the street, but I found it. It's actually right by the road. Now you're probably thinking, whoop-de-doo, a mass grave. What's so spooky about that? Well, the legend goes, his ghost roams this cemetery at night. And if you're ever out here in the night, you can hear branches crackling, weird moaning sounds, if you listen real carefully. Also, the legend goes, if you lay down on top of this grave at night, but mainly on Halloween night at midnight, you'll feel some kind of force tugging on you, trying to pull you under. Some say it's Old Man Smiley trying to pull you down into his grave. Now, if you're brave enough or foolish enough to try it, feel free to come out here any night at midnight, but more specifically, like I said, Halloween night. Now also, if you lay down right here, you'll also feel not only the tugging of something trying to pull you down, you're also going to feel a sense of sadness of what happened to the Smiley family, because he wants you to feel exactly what he felt after killing his entire family. Now again, that's a legend, all hearsay, and who doesn't like to believe in a good legend, a good ghost story? But unfortunately, that legend of Mr. Smiley killing his entire family, then hanging himself, that's not true. Upon further research, what actually happened here and why there is a mass grave and why everyone died on the same day of May 9th, 1927, So going back to that year, around 3 a.m. that early morning, a violent storm moved through the area across Dallas County. Now, as it's told, people in Dallas were awakened and amazed at the ferocity of the clouds and constant lightning strikes. Now, in this Garland area, that specific storm dropped an F4 tornado that killed 32 people and decimated 3 city blocks. All members of the Smiley family were at home when the tornado roared through Garland. Now, in the aftermath of the storm, Charles and Belle Smiley, 3 of their 5 daughters, Lilith, Greta, Charlena, all lay dead. Now, there are 2 surviving members, Dorrit and Margaret Ruth Smiley. They were taken to the hospital in Dallas where they ended up recovering. And Dorrit Smiley, she lived until October 1st, 2003, and she's buried over at Westland Memorial Park in Dallas. So folks, the legend of this man going insane, killing his family, fortunately not true. It was a tornado that wiped most of them out on May 9th, 1927. But still, that local legend is something. Come out here at midnight, specifically Halloween, and you still may feel your ankles getting cold, the snapping of twigs, a feeling of cold air. You never know. It could be Mr. Smiley trying to bring you under there with him. Or it could be just a cold night. I don't know. Anyway, regardless, I'm not coming out here and doing that. I don't test those kind of theories. I don't play around with it. I'm not, especially when I'm out here alone. So I don't have Elizabeth with me. But that's the legend of the Smiley family mass grave. Well, that's a wrap from Mills Cemetery here in Garland, Texas. There's another person buried here named William Daniel Corley. He also was a casualty in that deadly tornado back in 1927. I looked. I could not find his headstone anywhere. I looked and looked. I don't know. I mean, he's got to be here somewhere, or maybe he just rose up out of the grave and roaming the streets. And there's a weird smell of fried chicken flowing through this graveyard. Could be Mr. Smiley's rotting corpse, or it could be a gas station right across the street. I don't know. Either or. It's an interesting smell. So anyway, that's a wrap. Mills Cemetery. It's the legend of Smiley's grave. We'll see you next time.
We're back from the dead. Are you ready? Let's go. Back from the dead.